Okay, so now we're going to look at some cones. So right here we have a picture of a cone. So the name is cone. Then our formula, volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times the height. So it's very similar to the cylinder formula, but a cone is actually a third the size of a cylinder, which is where that 1/3 comes from. So let's substitute in here. We need to substitute in a radius and a height. So remember, the radius is part of the circle. So here's our circle part of the cone. And the radius starts at the center and goes to the outside of the circle, which means our radius is 2 feet. Then our height, again, it has to be at a right angle, just like every other height in this unit, but it's at a right angle to the base, to where the circle part of the cone is. So because 3 feet is at our right angle, makes our right angle, 3 feet is going to be our height. So we know h is 3, and we know r is 2. So now we can go ahead and plug these in. I'm going to start rewriting my formula. Volume equals 1/3 times pi times our radius, remember, is 2, and we need to square that, and then times our height, which is 3. So order of operations tells me I need to do my exponents first, so I will do that, and we get volume equals 1/3 times pi times 2 to the second power, 2 caret 2, that is 4 times 3. You can type this in all at once, but if you do want to simplify it a little more first, we can do volume equals 1/3 pi times 12, but you could have just typed it in how it was before. So now I'm going to type this in, 1/3 times pi times 12. So you can use your ABC button, 1, ABC 3, or your alpha y equals button if you're on a graphing calculator. So I'm going to do 1/3 times pi times 12. And that gets me 12.57, and our unit is feet to the third power. Flipping the page, we have our next question. So again, this is a cone, and our formula is still volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times the height. So let's figure out our radius and our height. So remember, the radius is halfway across the circle. So here's my circle. If all the way across is 3, or is 8, remember that's our diameter. So we need to divide by 2 in order to get the radius of 4. So if the whole thing is 8, then just half of it is 4. Our height, we are looking for this right angle box, and it goes from the right angle up to the point of the cone, and that's 9. So I'm going to rewrite my volume formula, 1/3 pi r squared h. So I'm going to plug in my radius and my height. So 1/3 times pi. R is 4, so I'm going to plug that into r. So I have 4 squared. And our height is 9. So I took our height, 9, plugged it in, 4h. And all these pieces are multiplying. So now we can just simplify and get our answer. So 1/3 times pi, they're already numbers, so I'm going to leave them alone. 4 squared, 4 caret 2, You can get that in your calculator, 16 and times 9. You can type this whole line into the calculator, or you can simplify it once more. 1/3 times pi. 16 times 9 gives me 144. So now you can go ahead and just plug this in. So 1/3 times pi times 144. I got 150.80. Hopefully you did too. And this is feet to the 3rd power. Alright, the next one, we have a cone again. The formula is still 1/3 volume equals 1/3 times pi times r squared times our height. And let's figure out our radius and our height. So for the radius, I'm going to look for the circle because radius is part of the circle. It's right here, halfway across the circle. So I know r is 308 feet, or 3.08 feet. And then my height makes a right angle and goes up to the point of the cone. So my height is 6.67. And now I can plug in. I have everything. So volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. So 1/3 times pi times, instead of an r, I'm putting 3.08 and squaring it, multiplying that to the height, which is 6.67. And now we simplify. So I'm going to put 3.08 squared into my calculator. And I get 9.4864. And then times 6.67. You don't need the parentheses, but I do think it just looks nicer because of like the decimals and the multiplication dot. It can get a little confusing. So now we can go ahead and simplify a little bit more. 9.4864 times 6.67 is 63.274288. Now it's important that you write out that whole number. I know it's long, but we don't want to round in the middle of the problem because it's going to make our final answer off if we start changing numbers in the middle of the problem. So I'm going to write out the whole thing, and now I can do 1/3 times pi times 63.274288. And I got 66.26. And I can round now that I'm done with the problem. But I don't want to round it in the middle of the problem. That's going to change our answer. So this is feet cubed. So that's volume of cones. Now there's a few to try on your own. You have a few cones and then a couple of review problems. If you need anything, please send me an email.